Will Vladimir Putin choose peace or war? This is the most important question right now. Everything else is secondary. Russia is at the crossroads right now. Russia and Ukraine, really. And many other countries too, but to lesser extent. So it's all come down to this one question everyone is asking in May 2025. Will Vladimir Putin choose peace or war? Is it really a question, a normal question? Who in the right mind would choose war over peace? But not so fast. We aren't talking of a right mind, of a normal mind. We're talking about Vladimir Putin. Today, I will answer this question. Will Vladimir Putin choose peace or war? And I will give you my reasoning behind the answer. Let's talk about it. Howdy, everyone. My name is Konstantin. Welcome to Inside Russia, where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian. As usual, here you will not find any BS, propaganda, or lies, but you will find truth, common sense, and logic, and some emotions too, because I am a human being after all. This is my second attempt of the day to do this live stream. I was abruptly cut off for some unknown reason, a very odd blackout. Anyway, that's not going to stop me. Now, before I start, I'd like to remind you the forecast I made after seeing the first results of the negotiations between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. The results were made public in March, not too long ago. I became confident that Vladimir Putin didn't want peace. Putin skillfully manipulated Trump into handing him a victory, something to show for these 3 years of madness. Something to show for destroying Ukraine, Ukrainian cities, killing hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians and stealing their land. Something to show for the hundreds of thousands of Russians dead, killed in the battlefields, and hundreds of thousands maimed. Something to show for destroying Russian economy, for destroying Russia's future of Russian people, really. For all the horrors he's brought upon Ukraine and Russia. What is exactly that victory he received? The American president calling him, discussing geopolitical matters, stepping down to become equal with Vladimir Putin, getting into the fight with the Ukrainian president, acting on, well, he wasn't really acting on Putin's behalf, but it looked like he was acting on Putin's behalf, breaking Ukraine over to sign the rare earth deal, humiliating and kicking Ukrainian president out of the White House, telling the world loudly that it'll be him, Donald Trump, together with Vladimir Putin, deciding the fate of the Middle East. That was the victory Vladimir Putin long waited for. Putin didn't want peace. Peace is deadly for him now. He just wanted to get aces. And he sure did receive them. So that was my forecast. It's been all along. Vladimir Putin would conduct the V-Day parade on May 9th in Moscow, where he would declare Russia's victory. And after the parade, in the days to come, he would change the rules of the game for the country. He would put Russia onto the military tracks. This is May 13th. Let's talk of what happened so far and what will happen next. Will Vladimir Putin choose peace or war? I think it's fairly obvious now. Well, It is 4 days after the V-Day parade, so it's done. Vladimir Putin did declare the victory. He made a speech and he didn't say a word, not a single word, of Russia's victory in the war, in what they're calling in Russia the Special Military Operation, SVO. He only talked of World War II and how Russia was victorious. He had a real message, and it wasn't even hidden. It was just behind the words. And the real message of the V-Day parade was unambiguous. Russia is victorious. Now, I want to take your attention, your memories, to 3 years ago. What happened 3 years ago after Russia invaded Ukraine? Russia was immediately ostracized, isolated, and kicked out of the proper society, of the international society. Do you remember that resolution that most countries in the world, except for very few, Belarus, North Korea, that they signed against Russia's aggression to Ukraine? Do you remember that? Do you remember what was happening in general in February, in March, in May, and in the following months of 2022? I want you to remember. Recall. Come on. Do it. Because I remember very well. I documented, and even if I didn't, it's right here in my head. In my heart. The pain is still here. The pain I went through, the shame, the PTSD, the depression, you name it. I documented here on YouTube. Everything is uploaded and everything is still there. Go and check it out. Take any live stream from early 2022. Now, the only Western leader calling Vladimir Putin was Emmanuel Macron to talk sense into Putin, to try. He did it twice, and that was it. Putin was shamed and cursed by everyone. He became non-handshakable. No one could imagine a world leader, a leader of any country, talking to Putin, let alone visiting him in Moscow. Well, except for Putin's mini-me, the president of Hungary, Viktor Orban, the Taliban, and the Hamas. They came. Everyone else turned away from Putin as if he had leprosy. And Putin was freaking out about it. Remember the last days of 2022? I do. Let me remind you. Putin, not seen for months, canceling the direct line, the annual event that happens in Russia every single year, the very end of the year. Him canceling the address to the Federal Assembly. A president must do it according to the Constitution. He just could care less. He was depressed. He was hiding from everyone. Putin had nothing to show for his decision to invade Ukraine and start the war. And things were getting pretty darn bad because the entire world was turning against him. The entire world was united behind Ukraine. Remember public demonstrations in different cities all over the world supporting Ukraine? Ukrainian flags, those behind me right there. Remember the USA proudly leading those efforts. That was the time when the USA was labeled as the evil West and the Satanists, because Russian propaganda had nothing else to offer to Russian people except those two crazy things. And then came May 9th, 2025. "27 heads of different countries, including China, Slovakia, Serbia, and Brazil. An extraordinary event, extraordinary security measures, all roads leading to the airports where the presidents were landing were close to regular mortals, regular Russians. The entire center of Moscow was cordoned off and closed for regular mortals, so no one was let in. The entire city was blocked off. The internet and mobile networks were shut down in the entire western part of Russia. What a showcase of incredible power that Putin has in Russia. In his fist. He basically showed the world, I have Russia in my fist. And there's nothing anyone can do about that. A perfectly organized, televised to all over the world. What an event that was. And Putin was in the limelight, shaking hands, smiling, mingling, making deals, giving out money. Cuba received $1 billion aid package from Putin, courtesy of Russian taxpayers. Despite of what is going on in the Russian economy, hey, $1 billion, not a big deal, right? And other countries perhaps also did receive something from him, only behind closed doors. For 3 years, Putin was feeding everyone BS about Russia circumventing the international sanctions like it's not a big deal. It's just making Russia stronger, getting the countries together under BRICS and the Global South umbrellas. Only you know what? On May 9th, 2025, it turned out to be not such BS. Because Vladimir Putin did deliver. Because 27 leaders of the countries, small, big, and huge, and European countries with democracies or supposed to be democracies, they just don't come to shake hand, hug with a man who is isolated, miserable, and ostracized. No, 27 presidents wouldn't come to an ostracized man because the isolated Russia can't decide the fate of the Middle East along with the USA. This was Vladimir Putin's triumph, courtesy of Donald Trump. And Donald Trump now understands that has been played by Putin, but now it's too late. Trump's latest statement he made a few statements about that. The latest statement he made on May 11th, and let me quote the American president. I am starting to doubt that Ukraine will make a deal with Putin, who is too busy celebrating the victory of the World War II. I end quote. Well, too late, Donald. You've done the damage already. May 9th will be remembered as Vladimir Putin's victory and triumph. Okay, before telling you my thoughts of what happened next and what will happen after, I would like to take this opportunity to inform you that I'm back home after taking 3 days off. So many things happened in this period in 3 days. Most YouTubers use this time in every video and live stream to insert advertisement of a brand, of a company. Well, I don't do that. I don't do brand deals. No one has approached me. So let me advertise myself. This is Konstantin, the sponsor of this live stream, okay? I just want to share with you real quick that it's really frustrating. I prepared the live stream, I started, and something happens. Internet is cut off only in my place, only for me. It's a blackout just when I start the live stream. And you know what? It's odd because it's only in my apartment. And then the electricity comes on. By the way, in Uzbekistan, the electricity supply is directed remotely. Very frustrating. I feel it's not only Google against me, demonetizing. because you're not seeing any commercials in my messages. I'm demonetized, but it's like the entire life is turning against me. Well, I'm still here. Whether I like it or not, well, I don't like it, but I'm still here. I don't like what's happening, but I promise you that I'll be here every evening. And if they shut off my internet or electricity or whatever, just count on me starting another live stream, or perhaps uploading video minutes after, I'm interrupted. So I'm here. I give you my word. I'll be here. Thank you for all your support. Thank you, friends. Now, enough for this mid-roll talk. Let's get to the message. Now, the V-Day parade happened. The victory and the triumph. That's all I gotta say about this event. Very clear message to everyone, to millions, hundreds of millions of people, televised all over the world. The triumph of Vladimir Putin. The next thing, the announcement of changing Russia's course towards militarization of its economy and society. It should follow. I was expecting it to be done in a way of some kind of address to the nation, just a few days after the V-Day celebration, V-Day parade and the celebration all over Russia. And Vladimir Putin did not disappoint. He announced an address to the reporters, journalists, on late night, May 11th, just hours after finishing the parade. It was an unexpected event, I learned just a few hours from Dmitry Peskov and his telegram. And Vladimir Putin delivered. On May 11th, Russian President Vladimir Putin made an overnight statement to reporters in the Kremlin in which he proposed resuming direct talks with Ukraine on May 15th in Istanbul. The proposal was made against the background of Moscow's refusal to support the 30-day truce proposed by Kiev and its Western allies, Europe. Something to watch for here is that the Russian president proposing to hold direct talks with Ukraine without preconditions, stressing that the goal is to eliminate the root causes of the conflict and establishing long-term peace. Now, these talks on the May 15th will fail. Russia will request the conditions that Ukraine will not want and will not be able to meet. I don't know what the conditions will be, but the negotiations will fail, and Russia will make sure of that. Mark my words. Hey, we don't have to wait for a very long time, just a couple days. And then Vladimir Putin will make his move. He will announce the changes in Russia. He will use this failed negotiation with Ukraine as an excuse. Because now he is trying to act as a peacemaker, okay? He is offering, he never offered any kind of negotiations before directly. Nothing came from his mouth, only from his aides, from his assistants. And now he takes his time after midnight, late at night, and himself, he proposes to hold the negotiation and to stop the bloodshed, basically. After he refused 30-day negotiation, 30-day truce proposed by Ukraine. See, he refused peace. And then immediately he says something to make himself look like the peacemaker, the peace negotiator, okay? After these negotiations fail, courtesy of Vladimir Putin, he will announce the changes And it's hard to tell exactly what they will be. I will try to give you the general idea now. These are the thoughts that I've had for quite some time. I think that Vladimir Putin will announce that perhaps he will not do it in one piece. Perhaps it's going to be a slow process in days, perhaps weeks. But the main idea will be that he will be selling it to Russian people and perhaps Russia's allies. Look, we tried. We did our best. We decided to speak to them directly, despite them being such evil people, evil country, but they failed, So we are forced to change things inside Russia. There is no way we can continue living the way we have been living until recently, until now. And this is where he will take Russia to. I think the main goals will be the growth of military production, survival of the state in its current form, in the vertical of power, and elimination of shortages in resources that were normally obtained through imports by increasing regulatory role of the state. Now, the whole economic life in the society will subordinate to this. There will be further explosion of military spendings and arms production. The civilian economy will be shrinking, and the shrinkage will be dramatic compared to what it was before the war. And that might be just a side effect, or it might be a goal for the civil economy to shrink. I think that there will be a new paradigm introduced, the paradigm of minimum human and civilian consumption to save the resources. The real incomes of population will be falling. In Russia's future economy, private property and markets will be preserved, but their role will be diminished. Perhaps they will mutate. Much more resources, material resources, human resources, monetary resources will be directly distributed by the state through new or existing state agencies. We've seen that before. I remember the agency called Gosplan that planned everything for Soviet people. Output of production, kinds of goods and services produced and distributed, and prices. Also, there was another agency called Gossnab, state supplying, things like that. They will either bring the old agencies back or they will come up with the new ones. The growth of the share of state ownership in private companies will grow. There will be extreme resource shortages due to the growth of military demand, loss of industries, loss of companies, loss of territories with resources, loss of transport networks, congestions, empty production facilities, and so forth. Rationing of resources will be introduced. There will be an increasing rationing of food and other minimum necessities for the population of Russia. The price ceilings will be created, introduced, and enforced by the state. We will see the movement towards well-established norms, plans, percentages, currency exchange rates, etc. Exactly what we saw in the USSR. There will be limits, production limits, distribution limits. There will be plans, control everywhere, supervision. And if someone would break the rules, there will be rules applied. And people will be breaking them. They will get punished, and the punishments will be harsh to show the others not to break the rules. There will be a lot of restrictions put on, well, in all areas of life, really, in mobility of people. Just like in the USSR, you couldn't just get up and go and live in another place. The state would have to approve that first. There will be lots of restrictions in money movement, transfers of money from bank accounts to different people. There will be restrictions of property sales, perhaps, or property ownership, or things like that. There will be centralization of finance. We have been seeing it happening in Russia, but this trend will be growing. The first step they have taken is introducing the digital ruble. That's a real official currency right now. And I think, don't mark my words here, please, but this is just what I think. The goal of the state is to get rid of most commercial banks because they're privately owned. And they give the owners and the clients a certain degree of freedom. Instead, they're going to make it so much more difficult to become a client of a commercial bank. They will make it more difficult for commercial banks to operate, to make profit. And it will make it so much easier for regular people to open accounts, digital accounts, directly with a central bank and using digital ruble as a means of payment. So that's what I think. Public investments, well, that's too early to say about that. The financial market or markets their role will diminish to zero or near zero, and the currency of Russia, ruble, money will become worthless. The inflation will be high. Again, there will be restrictions on currency operations, a sharp increase in the government debt, including forced government loans, money issuance, printing press will be turned on. That's an entire world that the state finance that Russian state will be controlling. Okay, it's too early to forecast anything what's going to be happening there. Just one thing to remember is there will be more and more control, and the tendency will be to the maximum control of the state over money supply, money circulation, money transfers, and so forth. There will be forced withdrawals of money. Well, basically, the state will be taking money from people. They will force such withdrawals. They'll come up with laws, norms, regulations, rules, social, legislative norms, and so forth. And people will have less and less control of their own money. I also think that there will be mass requisitions of different properties and means of productions and companies that are private now. We've been saying it. It's called well, I don't even know, stealing. This process has been going on for the past 18 months. We have been seeing that private-owned enterprises, profitable ones, important ones, big ones, they're just seized by the state and given to different owners. The taxation system will definitely be changed. The taxes will be higher, and the new kinds of taxes will be introduced. taxes for not having children, for divorcing, just to name a few, one of the biggest changes that will happen will be loss of freedom of speech. They going to take away from people what Mikhail Gorbachev introduced back in 1986, the pluralism of opinions. I remember that moment quite well. It was so liberating. Gorbachev allowed everyone to have their own opinion, and he became legal. Basically, he made it legal for people to speak up and to have opinions other than the party line. And I think that they're gonna take it back. There will be ideology right now, according to the Russian constitution. A state cannot have ideology. That's going to change. There will be only one ideological construct, and the state will have 100% monopoly on ideology. And of course, we will see a lot more repressive laws and much tougher punishments. Perhaps even capital punishment, just like Stalin did in the 30s. Basically, the paradigm will be, hey, you live in Russia, you behave the way you are supposed to behave, don't talk, don't disagree, don't betray. Okay, do as you said. I've seen it before in the USSR when I was growing up. What else? I think the last thing that will change in Russia is approach to labor. Right now, Russia has fairly lax, easy labor law. It benefits people greatly. For example, people cannot work weekends, and every person working full-time is entitled to a 21-day paid vacation, paid by the employer. That's 1 month every single year. Then tons of different holidays. For example, Russians don't work from January 1st to usually January 10th, from May 1st to May 9th. These are like non-holidays, non-vacation holidays. I think that's going to change because labor is a resource. And if Russia is going to be placed on the militarized tracks, then a lot more will be expected from Russians and a lot more labor for getting paid a lot less. I think that there will be a big strain put on people. The price of every human life will definitely be lowered. I mean, it's not very high in Russia these days, but it's gonna be even lower. And I think that there will be a new Iron Curtain. It has been descending in some ways, but you still can leave Russia, okay? No matter what they tell you, Russia is still open. If you're not under mobilization order, if you are not, if you're not a subject of criminal investigation, you can leave Russia at any time. I think that is going to change. You won't be able to leave, and you won't be able to take your money out of Russia. These are two basic freedoms, and I think that the days are numbered. This is what I think will follow in Russia. And Vladimir Putin will definitely go into, well, I call this Putin Russian military tracks. There will be lots of this. There's going to be a huge a massive amount of different actions by the state, all levels of the state, the vertical of power. The wheels will be turning, the gears will be changing, piece by piece, not a revolution, but evolution. But now it's going to be a fast one. And Vladimir Putin is going to make an excuse that he tried. Russia has tried. Russia is a fantastically peaceful country that won in World War II, that's been fighting neo-Nazis in Ukraine. It failed to achieve peace, but it tried. It took steps to achieve peace. Hey, even the US president admitted that publicly. He admitted that Russia is back as the peacemaker. He admitted that Vladimir Putin wanted to sign a peace treaty. And then American president was pressuring the Ukrainian president. Remember? February, March? I mean, it's there. It's history. It happened. I'm not just saying that. And that's what Vladimir Putin will use, definitely will use. And we'll see what happens next. In a nutshell, I see the future of Russia very dark. I see more and more the country appearing on the horizon that I ran away from. Well, we all ran away from. We all destroyed that country. It's called the USSR. Now it's going to be even worse. The USSR 2.0, upgraded and improved. And I think that the current state will be learning from the mistakes made by those Soviet comrades. And I think it's going to be much more difficult to break apart this new country that is appearing, evolving, forming in front of our eyes. Well, these are the bad news. The good news, I don't think that Russia will be, the new Russia, will be a big threat to the world. Yes, it does have nukes. Will it use nukes? No way. Because it would automatically mean the end of the current state of Russia. It will be just wiped out, nuked out in return. So they will not use nukes. Yes, they will be militarizing, but the level of the military most likely will be low for at least for so many years to come. Looking in the long term, decades, it's really hard to say. But in following years, most likely Russian army will not be a threat to anyone. Certainly not to the Baltic state, Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania. Certainly not to Kazakhstan. Certainly not to Moldova. No, that's my opinion. So that's the good news. And another good news is the level of corruption in this new Russia will be absolutely incredible. Just like it was in the USSR, but, much, much bigger, much, much, much higher. And that's also good news. That will keep the country from becoming strong. And, Russia just will be there. It will be an island in the world with occasional allies such as Belarus, North Korea, and countries like that, Venezuela, Cuba. Again, that's the good news. Tomorrow, I am going to have a live stream chat. I apologize, as power outage just got me off and kind of threw me off course. I was planning on having Q&A session now, but it's kind of too late. I want to do that tomorrow, and I will tell you, I have figured out a way how Vladimir Putin is going to boost his economy, the Russian economy, in the next few weeks, perhaps in the next few months. Right now, the economy is not doing too well at all. It's completely out of money. It has, some experts say it has a few weeks left, and it's even worse than I expected it to be. Okay, and I certainly have a bad outlook for Russian economy. But I have figured one way how Vladimir Putin can keep the economy afloat for a little bit longer. So I will tell you that in tomorrow's live stream, and I will answer your questions, and let's have a conversation tomorrow. Before I sign off, I would like to remind you that to keep up with the news that come out of Russia every single day, I have come up with Formula 54. That's how I call it. Inside Russia Patreon channel is the place where every day I post 9 news that I carefully select, that I find important, that I find they tell the story of Russia's transformation. 9 news every day, 6 days a week, 54 news every week. I feel it helps those who are interested in knowing what's happening in Russia and with Russia. The information that is important, that matters, and that cannot be found anywhere else in the mainstream media. The Patreon account of Inside Russia, I'll have a link in the description and in the pinned comment. Please check it out. Considering subscribing, becoming a patron. Thank you so very much. I will see you all tomorrow. Carthago delenda est.